What's up, my people? Welcome back to Vertical Football. Welcome back to another episode of the Manchester United Fans Corner. I'm your host, Shegun. So, guys, Onana to Trabzonspor. Here we go on a season-long loan. And then Manchester United, obviously, as you know, have brought in Senne Lammens into the squad. So, guys, I think Onana's decision to leave Manchester United on a loan, the decision of the club to let him go on a loan, I think is a welcome decision by every fan in the club. I believe every fan in the club should be in agreement with this decision, because even though we're saying it on this podcast for many times, and even especially after the Grimsby match, that the Grimsby match should be the last game for Onana as a Manchester United goalkeeper. And I see that from all indications with this season-long loan, I feel that appears to be the case. But guys, I don't want to just talk about the transfer to Trabzonspor alone. I want to talk about the fact that, first of all, the moment we decided to go for Onana as our goalkeeper to replace David De Gea, at the moment I was excited about it, which I have come here to say I feel it was a bad move for my own self. I was excited about it because of, what I saw Onana during the Champions League final, what I also saw in some games for Inter Milan, even though I had some reservations at some point, but I didn't really bring them forward. And so I feel that when I analyze the Onana signing from Inter Milan to Manchester United, there are three major mistakes Manchester United made in that transfer. And these are three mistakes that I have penned down. And I'm like, these three mistakes, we should never ever make it in any transfer moving forward. It's not the mistakes you want to be making as a top club like Manchester United. And then when I saw the signing of Senne Lammens from Royal Antwerp, I think, and I saw that, I'm like, the mistakes we made when we brought in Onana, we actually corrected those mistakes. We actually corrected those mistakes when we were actually bringing in Senne Lammens. So, guys, I have three mistakes Manchester United made in the signing of Onana, and now we have been able to correct those mistakes. And now moving forward, as a well-functioning and well-structured team, we should not be making this mistake going forward. The first mistake, which I believe is one of the grievous mistakes in the world of football today, because of how football has developed, is disregard for scouting. Disregard for scouting. I think the sign of Onana from Inter Milan was purely a disregard for scouting. The scouts, you might want to say your opinions about them, about the scouts we had before, but let's even just give them that credence for a moment, in the sense of they went ahead and I think they spent more than 6 months scouting a goalkeeper when they decided that there's a possibility that David De Gea will leave the club, which obviously in hindsight looks clearly a bad idea, but there was a possibility that he was going to leave the club. And then the scouts went ahead to look for a possible replacement that fits the manager's profile. Now, in none of those reports that we had was Onana ever mentioned as a potential replacement for David De Gea. In fact, the popular name then, that at least based on the report that we scouted game after game, was Diogo Costa from Porto, if I'm not mistaken, yeah. And we scouted that guy for more than 6 months, going to 8 months, going to even a year. And we ended up, at the dying minutes, based on just one publicized game, we ended up bringing Onana. That was the Champions League final between Inter Milan and Manchester City. And I feel that was a major mistake, where you disregard scouting and you go ahead to bring in a player where you just watch, where there's just an internet sensation about the player. We have not even done our research that deeply to understand how he plays, how many shots he's faced, basic scouting, how many shots is he faced per match, how does he parry the ball, how does he, punch the ball, how does he, deal under pressure. We've not done those analysis, and we discarded 8 months of scouting to go for someone based on off a game. And I think Manchester United, with that decision, even though I myself at that moment, or that I'm happy that it's in the club, I feel it's a wake-up call. It was a bad mistake. And when I look at Senne Lammens, because the fact is that this is pure scouting. It's pure scouting. Nobody knew this boy. If we were to call out names to replace Onana, I bet you, except someone that actually watches or knows the guy we mentioned, Senne Lammens. Whether you want to argue whether it's a direct replacement, but obviously look at it, one in, one out. That's what we're analyzing. We did not know this guy. And I think I've said it many times about our transfers this season, is the fact that many of the players we went for, we never thought we would go for them. I know Sesko has been in the air, but Sesko was also a product of scouting. If you look at the previous report, the scout has said this guy should be in Manchester United. I think they've tried for 2 times to get him. Matheus Cunha will be hearing the wave about he likes Man United, but we don't really know. But Mbeumo was a surprise, even though we all knew Mbeumo was a good player for the club or would be a good player for our club. But it was so I believe that there's a clear difference in how we go about scouting. We are now going based on scouting and data, which is a very, very important one. Now, the second thing I feel we made a mistake on when signing Onana was that, and I've said it many times on the podcast, is the fact that we had a goalkeeper in David De Gea who I can say had 80% of what you want from a goalkeeper in terms of qualities, in terms of punches, saves, coming out on the air. He developed those stuffs, right? Long range shot, punch. He had those things. But clearly, as with every player, he has his deficiencies. And maybe more so because maybe we're not that skillful in analytics of goalkeepers, right? Maybe in the sense of we saw a clear deficiency in David De Gea's game, in the fact of he did not know how to build up. He wasn't comfortable on the ball. And I feel we went ahead to discard a goalkeeper with 80% qualities in search of 20%. And we went ahead to get a goalkeeper who at that moment had the 20, but we disregarded the basic 80 that we had before. So what I mean is, it's not like you're having a cup that is 80% full. But because it's not 20% full, you disregard that cup. Now, what you should be going for is something that's 100% to actually complete what you have, right? But we went ahead because of our focus was majorly on what David De Gea did not have. And we forgot what David De Gea gave us. That sometimes we thought it was basic, but it was actually extraordinary. And that's genius, doing basic things extraordinary. That was David De Gea. Basic saves, saving the ball, but saving us extraordinarily. We discarded that. And then we went ahead to get someone that had the mirage of 20. And by going for his 20, we lost 80, and ultimately we even lost everything. At one point, it wasn't building up anything. There was nothing you could look at and say, this guy is actually good in it. And I feel we are all to be blamed. Both we, the coming out here to go, so we're not coming out to point fingers. It's also to take part of the blame. We missed it. And I say maybe we have to also review how we analyze goalkeepers. There's no shame in that. As a fan base, we have to analyze how we go about goalkeepers. But when you look at Senne Lammens that we brought, and I think when I look at the interview he did with MUTV, and looking at his statistics, I know it's not a top league where he is, but nevertheless, a goalkeeper, and you can actually see some things, in terms of how he deals with the ball and everything. And you find out that, yes, the league is different, but you find out that there is an all-roundness to his game. That's what I saw the first time I saw him, especially, I think the most important thing I saw in Senne Lammens when I first watched him was his reflex. His reflex is you can see it. It's clear, right? And when he now did the interview, he said it that I am an all-round goalkeeper. Now, I'm trying to paraphrase what he said. I am an all-round goalkeeper. He said, but at this level, you have to first basically be a shot stopper. And I think that statement summarizes what we need at Manchester United. Our basic thing we need from a goalkeeper, you must first be a shot stopper. And that's why sometimes I'm not really big on ball-playing goalkeepers, because a lot of ball-playing goalkeepers are not good shot stoppers. And I know in modern football, there's this dichotomy of what supersedes the other, what should be higher than the other. But I feel as a traditional football fan, someone that loves football from a traditional basis, I think you have to first be a shot stopper foundationally before becoming a ball playing. And I feel we went into that trap of going for something that should be additional without taking into cognizance or taking into regard the basic shot stopping ability. And that's what we got in Andre Onana. And I feel, yes, the boy that we brought in, Lammens, is not the finished article. The same way we bought David De Gea, it wasn't the finished article. but you can see signs. You can see the reflex. You can see, and he just has to adapt to the Premier League in terms of physicality, in terms of how he can impose and command this area, in terms of his confidence. Because playing in Manchester United, playing in Old Trafford as a goalkeeper, which is one of the most difficult jobs I think that's, in my opinion, the second most difficult job in the club. In terms of the striker is the first, and second is the goalkeeper. So it's going to need a lot of time, a lot of patience, which Man United is not known for really. But I feel the manager has a way to just to shuffle around. And I felt that now in Senne Lammens, we've discarded the mirage of 20%, and we've gone with someone that was basically scouted and well scouted, because it's someone that we did not know, and they went to get him from where he is, with the possibility of developing into a 100% and all-round goalkeeper, which I believe will be good for Manchester United. Third, which is the last one. This one, people might be like, oh. I felt one of the major reasons why we went for Onana over Diogo Costa at that moment was because it was the manager's choice over the structure in the club. Erik ten Hag clearly used his own veto to say, I want Onana. And the fact is, I think he also was a victim of that, because when you look at Erik ten Hag in Ajax, you should, as a coach, know what you want, but also understand the league you are coming into. So there are a lot of questions there. In the sense of, there's no need scouting Diogo Costa if you know you want to veto and bring Onana. And I felt ten Hag was also a victim of that superb ball-playing performance against Man City, that he went ahead to discard the scouting reports of the scouts, the structure at the club, to go for Onana. But I feel when you look at Senne Lammens, you will see that although reports said Ruben Amorim wanted, Emiliano Martinez, I feel the club decided to stick with scouting, to stick with their own choice. And I feel it might work out, it might not work out, but at least it's an inverse, what they call it, approach. And when you also see how we signed David De Gea, which at one point people never believed we were going to vote De Gea in Atletico Madrid. But when you look at Eric Steele, was a goalkeeper then, goalkeeper coach, I remember. And now Eric Steele would go and watch him and give report to Sir Alex Ferguson, and they did the reports, and it was a well scouted goalkeeper. David De Gea did not come out of thin air. He's not a goalkeeper that most clubs looked at and saw, but a goalkeeper coach with the goalkeeping scout went ahead to discover David De Gea. And I feel I like the fact that the goalkeeping scout actually gets goalkeeper, and not just the manager that just says, I want this person. Because maybe the manager is not even the best in analyzing goalkeepers, or maybe he's not even the best in recognizing the fact that the goalkeeper you have played with in Ajax has clear deficiencies. And so I feel these are the three mistakes we made. We disregarded scouting. We chose one quality over the basic and the most important qualities that a goalkeeper should have. And thirdly, it was the manager's choice over the club structure choice. So guys, this is my opinions on Onana. I wish him all the best, really. No hard feelings. He's an African man, and we support him from Africa. But we also have to be objective. It did not work out for Manchester United. And I think if you want to look at it, it was clearly one of the worst decisions we've made in the transfer market in recent times. We've made a lot of wrong mistakes, but I feel Onana was clearly one of the worst mistakes, because not just because of buying him, but also because of what we had that we had to let go in person of David De Gea. So guys, these are my opinions on Onana's move. And the introduction of Senne Lammens. Guys, let me have your opinion on this. What are your thoughts about these 3 mistakes? Do you think there's anyone that I should have added, or any point that you disagree with? Please comment in the comment section. Thank you very much for your continued love and support for us. Please don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and most importantly, don't forget to share. Until I see you next time. Bye.